Welcome to episode 247 of the Working Fans Podcast. Today, we have a WWE Backlash review. We have Dark Side of the Ring talk. We've got Dr. Death Steve Williams versus British Bulldog.
Bitch ass.
But you know what we got first, Dave?
What we got first?
Game
If you haven't tried Game Up, then you are missing out. Imagine your favorite seltzer and your favorite sports drink had a baby, but it's way better than that. Each can is 110 calories, low carb, 4.9 ABV. It's a nice light drink that is not light on flavor. Game Up comes in fruit punch, orange, lemon, lime, and grape. Pick it up at drinkgameup.com or at your nearest liquor store.
We are going a little bit early today because it is summertime. Schedules are starting to pop. And first, Dave, we didn't even look at this, but let's start off with our disappointment in the week.
Yeah.
WWE Draft. We were excited about it this time last week, talking about what could possibly happen. Now that we have the draft is over, what are your thoughts about it?
Well, as I share this on one more place, Joe. It was lackluster. It's kind of funny that you said what you said just now because we have not even talked about this because our weeks have been so busy. But we both know it just wasn't really it wasn't a home run. It was not anything I wanted. I think somebody said that it was more realistic in the sense that they tried to like hold on their talent. That's fine, but it didn't make for good television at the end of the day. There were a few things I could say positively, one being the NXT call-ups. They were very genuine. You could see, with the exception of Carmelo Hayes, who was already there, obviously, the ladies especially, you could see the real emotional reaction, especially like on Blair Davenport, Monday. But at the end of the day, I think the draft is kind of played out. And if they're going to do another one, I think they should try to find a different format. We've been very complimentary at WWE. I'm excited about the future still. But as far as this, just to show fans we're equally critical of everything, this to me was not a home run.
Yeah, it felt like it was really just to keep the status quo with the shows. Yes. Hold on. Responding to a comment. Usually this happens when we're on different computers. We are in the same room because Dave and myself just recorded commentary.
Friends.
And somebody has to go see Star Wars Episode 1 in about an hour and a half. So we really combined our days. And like the WWE, they really, they kept shows. SmackDown might have gotten a little extra talent compared to Raw. I liked the presentation where you had NXT there,
right?
Kind of like the draft class. If anything, it seemed like it was to move some NXT people up. I remember Perfection Pro Wrestler on one of our TikTok lives today, or not today, this week, said that he thought that the draft would be better maybe with some more stakes to it.
Right.
Whatever brand, and I forget the stakes that he put up, but if there was like the stakes to who gets the first pick next year or something like that, make it a little more exciting.
Sure. I mean, at the end of the day, too, they protected the champions, but that's kind of what made the draft more interesting in the past, at least. That was one thing where like, oh, what champions might get moved? We didn't get that. So at the end of the day, I'm excited that we're moving past it. And that's about all I could say for the draft. I was not a fan.
And Dave, do you know what's making today's live show more interesting?
You tell me. Is it just?
It is
and the great fans, thank you for joining us.
It is a lack of sleep because my transitions are dog shit this week. And I'll tell you what wasn't dog shit was this week's Dark Side of the Ring. And Dave, were you able to watch the show?
I was. This was one of the things I saw this week. And I think a friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, said it best. Like these ECW guys, man, they're just like, they're very honest, if anything. Yeah, we did all the drugs, steroids. Yep, we did all of them. That's one thing I can say about Sandman. Like, he obviously went to a period where he was abusive as well. It seemed especially like when he got on the steroids. And even before the abuse, he was obviously not always present because he was busy chasing his dream and involved in the drugs and the alcohol. But he was honest, at least, that this was all his fault, and I will tell you, that's a big thing, right? Is admitting your own fault to this admitting that, this is on me, and that's the biggest step you could do. So hopefully he can get his life back on track. But I don't know where he's at now. But, man, that was definitely sad to watch.
Yeah, this is a wild mix because Dark Side of the Ring stories, they tend to go from Jess, you definitely need to see this because it was a little bit Harley Race, how the business tore apart his family life. You've got the pitfalls of drugs that tore him apart. You got the great ECW stories. And
I have to say one thing I did laugh about is just watching this is his son Tyler, who's like 30-something years old now, but was dragged into these storylines at 12. No, not even. He was probably 9 years old. And Raven, who's the guy who's manipulating everything. It's you know that the divorce was your dad's fault. And the little 9-year-old kid is I know. It's so ridiculous watching this. How did they let this kid be involved in this?
And that's definitely one of the touches that you get from Dark Side of the Ring is you get to hear from the families. You got to hear from the ex-wife that was a part of this as well. You got to hear from Sandman's daughter. And it's just wild to hear those firsthand accounts of the family falling apart and everything that happened with it. I'm very much looking forward to next week's episode, which is Black Saturday, the day that Vince McMahon appeared on Georgia Championship Wrestling TV. And speaking of TV, there is a big day ahead of us tomorrow. I will not be watching it live. Jess won't be watching it live. Big question, Dave, will you be watching it live?
I'm going to make an effort to watch it live. As of now, I don't know where my schedule falls. I have the freedom currently. That is one area of my day where I am open tomorrow is for Backlash. So we'll see.
Now, Dave, I can see your phone from
I
here.
I got this guy.
I was hoping you were pulling it up. I'm how much delaying do I got to do? But Dave and I are a team. We are linked up. Dave, hit me with those matches, and let's start dropping some predictions on the people.
All right, let's go to America's most trusted news source, Wikipedia, as we're going to open up with Randy Orton and Kevin Owens versus the Bloodline. Okay, I'm going with the Bloodline.
That's Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga.
Yes, I'm sorry, Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. And I'm glad you specified that because part of my prediction here, I'm picking them. But I'm also going to go a step further and say this will be the debut of Jacob Fatu. I believe he will get involved and help them get the win.
That could be very interesting. It's going to be our first time seeing Tama Tonga in an actual – he's been in a WWE ring, but this is the first time we're going to see Tama in a match. So I think that's exciting. I'm trying to think here. I would have to go with the Bloodline, but I think Fatu's debut is going to be a little bit down the line. I say Bloodline gets it clean. I've been really liking this new Bloodline. Solo and Tama, they feel more dangerous. They feel a little more devious, and they got to get the win there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're going to be in agreement on. I think we'll maybe be in agreement on this one too, but we'll see. The Kabuki Warriors versus Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill.
I would be very surprised if Bianca and Jade do not win those titles. I think it is a great team to put together.
Yes.
And yeah, I think they're going to bring the prestige to the women's tag titles that Sasha Banks and Naomi wanted to have when they walked out.
Absolutely. I'm going to say this. I agree. I knew we would agree on this, but I will play devil's advocate just a little bit. If the Kabuki Warriors are going to get the win, it's because Jade is going to turn on Bianca and she's going heel. That's my prediction. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it does, you heard it here first.
That's interesting. I almost thought you were going to say that somehow the Kabuki Warriors get the one up on Jade and Bianca, and then that pushes this match, down the line to possibly a big SummerSlam match. But that'll be one definitely to check out because I could really see it going either of those ways.
All right, next match, we got Bayley versus Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Bayley's got to win here. I think Bayley, it's too early in her title reign to lose this. But that being said, Tiffany Stratton, I really like what she's doing with her character. She's really athletic and something to watch in the ring. Not going to be surprised if they strapped a rocket to this girl at some point, but I think it's too early. You got to go with Bayley.
I'm going to disagree with you. I feel like Tiffany is on that skyrocket up, and this win is going to establish her more than she already has. I don't think it's going to hurt Bayley if she loses here, like in the people's eyes, but we'll have to see. I mean,
yeah, I like it.
Sometimes we got to disagree to make this a little interesting.
Yeah, I like it. Well, we disagree on this one. Damian Priest defends the World Championship against Jey Uso. I could see Jey winning this title, but I'm going to say not yet. I'll go with Damian Priest.
Yeah, Jay's been getting so hot, and it's that same thing kind of like with Tiffany.
Yeah.
That does he get the win here, and then somebody else goes after that championship? But Damian, it still hasn't held it long. You feel like there's got to be a little more time with it in the ring.
And unlike Bayley, it might hurt him to lose the title already. He just hasn't established one. So
while we're talking about Damian Priest, what do you think of the status of Judgment Day at the moment? 2 members are out. Could there be fractions in the group?
I mean, there's certainly always playing that tension right now. Let's get past this weekend, but my guess is not yet. My prediction is Damian gets to win barely this week. Maybe they come close to doing this, but down the road, Damian will lose the title, and that's when it's all going to go belly up and explode.
All right, very interesting.
We got one more match here. We got AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. Man, at the end of the day, AJ Styles is one of the best wrestlers of all time, but this is for Cody's legacy. Cody's not losing this title yet. Not that I'd be upset if AJ Styles ever gets the championship, but at the end of the day, this is still Cody's time.
I would have liked to have seen LA Knight in this match, but now that we're on the verge of Backlash, you're going to have a very athletic match. You're going to have a great main event for Backlash. But yeah, I don't see AJ taking this title. Cody still has the championship story now that he has to keep going forward for, and AJ's just not going to get it done today.
I will say one more thing too. I feel like Backlash, almost kind of like the draft, is kind of like just a show. At the end of the day, I mean, unless some of these things that we're talking about happens like a Jacob Fatu, maybe Tiffany wins the title, it should be a fun show. But I feel like more focus is going to be at the event coming in Saudi with the King of the Ring tournaments, and then the Money in the Bank, and then we have SummerSlam. So I feel like once we get past Backlash, it's almost off to the races.
100%. And it's going to be great action tomorrow. It's going to be exciting. We are going, early show, 1 p.m. So I might be catching a little bit of it before the birthday party. But when you think exciting, when you think big show, Dave, we have been doing these dream matchups that you've been putting on YouTube, on TikTok. I usually go with the highest rated and we debate it. And one that popped off this week, which I thought was interesting at first, but then when you really think about it, is quite the power matchup, is that great 80s, 90s wrestler matchup. British Bulldog or Dr. Death Steve Williams, 2 men known for the power, known for the big slams.
Right, the power slams in particular. Davey Boy had that throw you over his shoulder, run, take a few steps, power slam. And Doc had what he would call the Oklahoma Stampede, where he'd literally pick you up, slam your back from corner to corner run, and then power slam you. 2 of my favorites growing up. I won't lie. I was actually a little bit more of a British Bulldog fan because he was the first one I saw. I loved him with Dynamite Kid, and then I loved his singles run. My mom had a crush on Davey Boy Smith, and therefore, I don't know why, but as a kid, I was like, I didn't find it awkward. I was just like, yeah, you go, Mom. You get Davey Boy.
And it was wild, Dave, because until this week, I've heard the name Davey Boy Smith forever.
Yeah.
It never occurred to me that the British Bulldog's given name is David Smith.
Yeah.
Never didn't even think of it. I saw it on the tombstone. Yeah. I'm like, Dave ain't dead. He's raising 5 kids. We got to do a show this weekend. But it was crazy to see that. This is a big matchup. I mean, Dr. Death, both guys known as a tough guy. Dr. Death, notorious tough guy. And one thing that I was also thinking that was interesting about these guys is you think about how they had such big careers,
Mhm.
how they were known as these big powerhouses. And yet, you know, like freak injuries kind of derailed them from being bigger than they could be.
Yeah.
Davey Boy Smith is getting body slammed on that trap door.
Sure.
With Dr. Death making that big debut in the WWF and then having the Brawl for All have like hurt his chances there. And it didn't hurt him as a legitimate tough guy. He had a great career after that. Dr. Death Steve Williams wrestled in the original MLW, you know, went on. So it wasn't like these incidents necessarily ended both careers,
No.
but they both had a big incident that changed the course of
Absolutely.
their career.
Now, the question for this particular one was who was the better in-ring worker, not better career. Now, if you talk better career, that's also highly debatable too, because Bulldog had more of that national success in WWE, but Dr. Death's Japan run was really something else. So that being said, as far as better worker in the ring, it's arguable. I think Dr. Death's a little more gritty, and I think that's where you find these hardcore fans like him. But I think Davey was very highly underrated as a technical wrestler as well, because a lot of times he got grouped with Brett and Owen, two of the best technical wrestlers of that era, but Davey could hang with them, and he had that power game. So I just like Davey. He definitely didn't always have his head on straight. We've joked about it a few times in the past.
Even on crack.
Even on crack, he put on a hell of a match, all right? You know, my man did it. So, yeah, and yet I went with Davey, but as far as the power slam, if I'm going to break this up in two categories, Dr. Death all day.
Now, I'm gonna have to argue against you with that, because even though Davey, good technical wrestler, learned in the Heart Dungeon, Dr. Death, collegiate wrestler,
Yeah.
you know, legitimate tough man. Probably, I bet if UFC had gone back then,
Oh, yeah.
that is something Dr. Death could have at least entered. I'm not gonna say he would have gone in there and killed it, because we saw plenty of power guys enter the UFC that just couldn't adapt to that MMA style. But you got to feel like Dr. Death would have had a chance with at least that collegiate wrestling background.
Yeah, at the end of the day, both very tough, very legit. And as far as you ask me who would win in a real fight, I'd probably bet on Dr. Death, actually.
Yeah, it's hard not to. And Dave, there's one place where all these great wrestling discussions are held. And you know where that is, Dave?
That's Wrestleville, baby.
Oh, shit. I can't even get on camera. It is Wrestleville.
Shout out to Wrestleville.
Oh, shit. We fucked up. Now we got to
Yeah,
play the
he
commercial.
doesn't know where it is. He's not on his computer.
This is what happens when we're both in the room. You know where
we're live, pal.
You know where fuck ups don't happen? Wrestleville.
Read about the Northern Wrestling Federation in the book presented by Wrestleville.com, The Pro Wrestling Vault, Volume 2. Hear the story of Roger Ruffin, the man who trained Carl Anderson, the Monster Abyss, Jordan Clearwater, Chris Harrison, Jillian Hall.
Plus 45 other short stories, including Jazz, Bobby Eaton, Kamala, Thunder Rosa, Mario Mancini, Scott Casey, PJ Black, Kerry Morton, Sal Renaro, Jeremiah Plunkett, Colby Carino, Bam Bam Malone, and many others.
Get your book today at Wrestleville.com. Wrestleville. It's where wrestling lives.
All you got young wrestling fans out there, listen, Old Black Bart has got a book. It's called Wrestle. I'm like that. It's got some dead good stories in there about some dead good wrestlers.
Read stories of Dusty Rhodes, the Von Erich, Scott Casey, Sergeant Slaughter, Roddy Piper, Mr. Fuji, Ron Bass, Bruiser Brody, Mike Davis, the Grappler, and many others.
And I guarantee you one thing, that it'll be the best dadgum read you've had in a long time.
Get your book today at Wrestleville.com or on Amazon. Wrestleville, it's where wrestling lives.